As someone who stayed optimistic for Star Wars content ever since 2012 when George Lucas sold the rights to Star Wars to Disney, I have to admit I lost a lot of optimism because of The Acolyte. In previous videos from 6 months ago, I had said that The Acolyte was okay, it was fine, and that it didn't leave a bad taste in my mouth like The Rise of Skywalker did. However, over time, the more I thought about it, the less I liked it, and I feel like not only is it more disappointing, I feel that it's worse than The Rise of Skywalker. While the fighting was really cool and some of the ideas I really like, it doesn't matter how good of an idea I think it is when the execution is terrible. It was such a watered down, bland show with terrible pacing. However, since getting the Hulu Disney Plus bundle for the final season of What We Do in the Shadows and finishing it, I thought, hey, you know what? I got my membership. Skeleton Crew just came out. Let me give it a watch. And I'm so happy I did. Skeleton Crew is such a unique experience with its own story to tell. It felt so refreshing because instead of focusing on Jedis and galactic civil war, we're focusing on kids lost in space, and in an attempt to try to get home, they kept getting attacked and chased by pirates, which is great. It was such a fun little adventure. It is such a unique show that I showed my girlfriend who hated Star Wars this show, and she fell in love. She got locked in and was so eager to watch the next episode. At the same time, this show really does capture the magic of Star Wars while creating its own identity. It doesn't over-rely on references, Easter eggs, cameos, none of that. In fact, it doesn't rely on that stuff, which is great. Yeah, there's references to like Alderaan and the Galactic Civil War without going into any specifics, which is nice. But there's no Luke Skywalker, there's no Din Djarin, who I swore I thought he was going to be in the show because it was said that this show was going to have connections and tie in with The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Boba Fett, and all that stuff, which honestly, when I heard that, it made me less interested in the show because I wanted something new and different and something that does its own thing without being tied down by other stuff, like an MCU project. Or Gen V. Yeah, I wish Gen V did its own thing instead of like, no, I have to watch Gen V Season 2 before I watch Season 5 to know what's going on. Don't you like watching a show where you could just focus on that show and its own seasons without having to stop that show and then moving on to another show, watch that season, and then go back to the other show that you were originally watching, and then watch that season, and then go back to the other show, watch that other season that you didn't watch before you watch the other show? No, you don't have to watch The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Boba Fett, none of the other shows to understand what's going on with the Skeleton Crew. And I love that. It felt like a breath of fresh air. I argued that you don't even have to watch Star Wars anything in order to understand what goes on with Skeleton Crew. Now, even my girlfriend knew what's going on, and she got everything that was going on within the context of the show. The kids are phenomenal. Not only are they great actors, but they have such wonderful chemistry with each other. Similar to like how they feel like real kids. They're written like real kids. They act like real kids. They have such wonderful scenes with one another and by themselves. It's very easy to get kids wrong, but these kids are extremely likable and you're on their side and you want them to get home safe and sound. But they're not alone, as they're accompanied with Jod, who was said to be a Jedi. And this isn't really a spoiler, but this was said in the promotions and how the people behind the show, like Jude Law, how they described the character. Like, I thought he was going to be another Jedi survivor from Order 66. Not that I'm annoyed by it per se. I just didn't want to see in this show. I want to take a break from that. But I'm happy he wasn't. He's such a really cool character who just constantly keeps you on your feet. You're wondering what's his next plan, what's his angle, and XYZ. And he's such a great wild card in this show. There's so many things I want to talk about, but they go into spoiler territory. So I think I'll make another video where I just talk about spoilers for the Skeleton Crew. I strongly recommend this show. It is phenomenal. There was not a single bad episode. It is 8 episodes long, and the pacing just keeps you engaged on the edge of your seat every second of every moment of the series. And I'm happy to say it had a strong finale. I'm unsure how the people behind The Acolyte, like specifically the crew, the writers, directors, how they felt about making the show, but it really felt like the people behind the Skeleton Crew, you can feel the hunger for making not only a Star Wars story, but just a show in general. You can really feel the excitement and the thought put into the series with its characters, its side of the lore that explores more pirate stuff, which we've had pirates before quite a few times actually, but never like this. Their pirate codes, pirate hangouts, shanties. This show makes the Star Wars universe feel more lively and bigger than ever before, as opposed to feeling like a small town where everybody knows everybody. I'm sure we'll see the kids meet Din Djarin at some point, but Hey, as of right now, it feels big still. And I want to say one more thing before I head out, because I know some people are going to call me a Disney shill for like trying to promote this show, but I got nothing to gain from this. I'm talking about the show because it made me feel happy. I want to remind people that there are still creatives who come in and say, hey, I want to make a Star Wars story. And it does happen where writers and directors come in and they're able to share their voice with little to no studio interference. I mean, like Andor, one could argue that that's a cash grab considering he has connections to Rogue One, but still the people who came into that show made it their own. It feels vastly different than stuff that you saw from Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, the Star Wars movies. With its like elevated serious tone, that feels like a straight up serious drama. It took itself seriously and it was really good. I think it's really important to remember that because not everything Star Wars is made by the same person who made something you really despise. The people who made The Acolyte had nothing to do with the Skeleton Crew, and the people who worked on that had nothing to do with Andor. It's okay to give something a chance, but hey, there's always the expanded universe, aka Legends, stories that came from before the Disney acquisition, a completely different canon that you can sink your teeth into and enjoy. And if not, don't bother and berate people who actually want to give this stuff a chance.
Come on, baby.